Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Bentley. So good to see everybody on this beautiful day. So glad that we have beautiful weather out there. I want to welcome our families. We have families here. We have alumni here. We have students. We have some staff here to hear from our president and our VP for Student Affairs this morning. I think we also have some prospective students here, so welcome to all of you as well. I hope when we're finished here today that you take some time to walk around campus, enjoy the scenery, enjoy some food, get to know new friends. It's a wonderful community here. So I'm Betsy Whipple. I am the Associate Vice President in Advancement, and I like to describe our team as the group that really does everything for alumni and families. So I do want to give a shout out to my team who has worked tirelessly over the past several weeks, especially yesterday, today, and tomorrow. They've done a fabulous job and they're excited to have all of you here. I do want to remind you that we are taking questions. So there are, I think, file cards floating around, people to pick those up. So feel free during the armchair if you have questions, and we have people walking around to pick those up. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our two speakers this morning. First is Andrew Shepardson, who is, as I said, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. I won't say how long you've been here, but it's a very long time. And Andrew's had quite an impact on the community and cares very deeply. Andrew and his team care very deeply about the students here, so your students. So thank you for joining us this morning, Andrew. And also we have with us this morning Bentley's 9th president, Dr. LaBrent Chrite. Brent has started his second year here at Bentley and has accomplished quite a lot in those, I'll say, about 18 months. He is a fantastic leader. He comes with a lot of passion about what he does. He feels very deeply about providing an excellent business education for our students here. He spent the last year and a half getting to know our alumni, getting to know our faculty, our students, and our staff. So Brent, thank you also for joining us today, and come on up.
All right, you ready? I get to ask my boss questions, so it's a great day for me. And by a long time, it's only been 30 years that I've been at Bentley, so that's not that long. But you know, just to know, understand who's in the audience. How many families are here? And how many of those families are? This is the first year your student has been here, so quite a few. Okay, how many alumni are here? Any alumni parents or family? Oh, all right, that's great. Welcome. That's awesome. How many students? And do we have any prospective students here looking at Bentley? There we go, up in the back. Awesome. So we got a great mix of folks here. And I'd love to start with that group of first year parents. You know, you've spent the majority of your career in education. You were a student. You've been a professor. You've been a dean. You've been a president twice. But probably more importantly, you've been a father of college students and helped them through their educational journey. What's the one piece of advice you have for parents as their children are going through the educational experience of college?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. And let me just say good morning, welcome, join my colleagues, and just thanking you all for being here. It's a delight to see you, and what a beautiful day. And we've gotten off to a wonderful start with an amazing ceremony for our first year students just a little while ago. So, you know, there are all kinds of mixed emotions. We have 3 kids, and we were able to get them all safely out of the house, and none of them are back. And so hopefully we can keep that going. First, you know, we recognize that none of us, including your students, got to a place like this on their own. And so shout out to you all as parents for your stewardship and commitment and resilience, particularly as you've had to navigate your high schoolers, for your first year students here, navigate high school during a really difficult time that there's no need to talk about anymore, but we know that was not easy space. So you all are to be commended for that. I think the second piece that I would suggest is to support your students in, and this is not a term that we frequent around here often, but support your students in the many and inevitable failures that are going to occur. So this is a business-oriented university. We have an amazing arts and science place. It's what makes our business as good as it is. But we are fundamentally an organization that believes in the marketplace and the power of the private sector. And so we have students here who are competitive and they're hardworking, and many of them are used to being the sort of uber achievers in high school. And that's great. And we want them to know, we want you to know that part of the beauty of a place like this is that you have the capacity and even obligation to step out of your comfort zone and to try things that are new and uncomfortable, and that you're going to fail. And so when your students do that, and we hope that they will, we expect them to, just be there to support them, as we will be, to lift them up and have them iterate and try again and fail again. And that is in part how they grow. So those are two things that are on our mind. And then the third thing I would say is they are young, emergent adults, and they have earned the right to be here. And you can let go. We will ensure their well-being and their safety, and you need to do the same. And so those are some of the things, but that's sort of space mentally that all parents just need to navigate on their own. But those are a couple of the things I would mention.
Great. And that gives me a chance to plug a little bit one of my favorite programs,
Right.
which is the Bentley Plus program, where resilience is a key competency we're trying to help students achieve as they go through that program. And that program is geared towards what employers are looking for. And certainly employers want someone who can iterate, fail, iterate, and have some of that resilience. So this is our second town hall.
Right.
So last time you were 6 weeks into your first semester. So now you've seen a whole academic year. We're into the second year. Any surprises about Bentley? Any favorite memories of the traditions that you've seen, and what maybe didn't you know about Bentley that you now know?
Yeah, well, I mean, the traditions, I just have an N of one, right? I mean, 1 year, so they don't really seem like traditions to me, but so I've been really uniquely privileged to have a career both in the private sector and in the academic environment that has really exceeded, from a guy out of Detroit, public schools, every expectation I've ever had. This has been by far the best fit for me in my professional life, which I didn't expect. And I think one of the reasons that I feel that way, and this is coming to what has surprised me, well, maybe not surprised, I just didn't expect to see it, is the level of empathy and compassion and this shared narrative that exists among our students in their support for one another and for their community. I didn't expect folks to be sort of aloof and sort of selfish, but at a business-oriented university, I think that surprised me. And it is the sort of institutional set of values that is really a demonstrable part of our ethos here, that is defined in how our students behave toward one another and the faculty and staff, and how they conduct themselves in the work environment, that I'm really proud of. And at that core, again, this wasn't a surprise, but this is what has really pleased me. At that core is a manifest commitment to personal integrity. Can't really be taught, and that is what I have come to really appreciate, I think, the most here.
Great. Thank you. And so you think about that culture and that tradition here, but at the same time, you've brought some really energetic and great new leadership. We have a new dean of business, a new provost. We have a new vice president of advancement starting in a week or so. And you've also developed a new division, strategy and innovation. And I see that the vice president for that division is here, Sean Ferguson. So, what does that mean? And bringing that talent to the university and that new energy, and particularly that new division as we're moving forward.
So your students, the students that we educate here are early adapters of technology. We are at a space in the evolution of the marketplace in which we operate and compete in that is defined at this intersection of digital and physical technologies, and we are being upended by unprecedented levels of disruption and competitiveness. There is not an industry on the planet that is not fundamentally being disrupted by new entrants, lower entry barriers, technological proliferation, the democratization of information, and higher education is no exception. As you know, there are many across the country who are really questioning the value and the viability of what we do, and is it worth the investment, is it worth the time, and our commitment is to provide a clear and unambiguous response to that question, that Bentley remains a powerful and unique platform through which our students are virtually guaranteed to be launched on a trajectory of upward social and economic mobility. It is an exceptional and rare platform for intergenerational wealth creation. And for us to sustain that, we have to migrate from the historical orthodoxies and comfort and practices of what we think about as higher education. So we're shaking stuff up. Not easy to do in a place like this, but that is what we're doing because it's the right thing to do. The market demands it, our students deserve it, and we are committed to being as future-oriented as are our students. And so strategy and structure must be aligned with that. And that's why Sean's here, and that's why this division of innovation strategy is here. That's why this new this strategic positioning process we're going through. That's why we're doing much of what we're doing.
Speaking of that strategic positioning process, so it's been going on for a year now. It's wrapping up in coming out in the final form shortly. Can you talk a little bit about that that process, how we've gotten to this point, and I've got a question here about what's the vision for the next 5 years, 8 years? What are we hoping for Bentley University?
Yeah, so the strategic positioning process has been sort of all-consuming, ubiquitous for the last probably 12 or 13 months. I mean, I started it a few months after I got here with the leadership team, trustees, students, alumni, our corporate partners. I mean, it has been a really, we've tried to make it as transparent and engaging as possible. And I like many of you have been through a lot of these, and I couldn't be more excited about where we are. Just very briefly. So we believe at Bentley that there are 4, what we've termed, this is sort of the vernacular we're using, 4 must-win battles. We said, if Bentley is to achieve the next tier of excellence, and that is why I'm here, and that's why we're here, to ensure that the institution get to that next tier of excellence as we define it. If that's going to happen, what needs to occur? And we said there are at least 4 discrete but highly related battles that Bentley has to win. And this is at the heart of this positioning strategy. And so the first battle was to ensure a unique and transformational student experience. We are a residential-based, high-touch university in a really competitive part of the higher education ecosystem, and we need to have a student experience that is both distinct and distinguished. What does that look like? What are the implications of that? What are the investments required? How does it affect culture, pedagogy, transfer, curriculum, programs? So student experience. The second was we have to align ourselves with a vision and a culture that will enable us to be more innovative, more future forward, less risk averse, maybe less conservative in that sense. And we have to create a community that welcomes and affirms all of us. And so that was the second battle that we feel we have to win. The third is that we have to grow and diversify the university's revenue stream. And we are committed to that. You heard new Vice President for Advancement and thinking about ancillary and enterprise revenues. And so that's a big part of it. And then the fourth was really, this was the fundamental, almost existential sort of issue for us. Where do we plan to play? How do we plan to win? What can stop us? How do we know when we get there? This is a positioning. This is positioning and partnership. So what are the reciprocal, sustainable, mutually beneficial relationships that we need in the marketplace to allow us to take that step? So those 4, and none of them can occur in vacuum, but those 4 priorities were the core, and everything fell from there. And so if we can drive those forward, which we're doing, as you know, then we think that we'll have the institution on a strong trajectory. And so we've spent a lot of time and effort focusing on that.
And when you think about the student experience and you think about market relevance, and I've heard you talk to student leaders about the role that the private sector is playing when it comes to racial justice, inclusivity, DE&I. Can you share a little bit more about what that role the private sector is and how Bentley is really working to make sure that our students are ready to join the private sector and engage around DE&I and be prepared for the workforce?
Yeah. So, really important question. You know, our university, our community, like virtually every community in this country, important, and that is as it should be. And I am really proud of the institution's commitment to those conversations. Those are not easy conversations to have. And I also refer back to the fact that if you look at who continues to be on the tip of the spear in terms of advocating, and this is not about social justice per se. This is about the recognition that the world in which our students are going to compete in is increasingly global, diverse, connected, and brown. And one of this country's, we talked about this earlier, one of this country's, you know, in my view, great strengths, it's an essential sort of condition to its sustained competitiveness economically, intellectually, culturally, artistically, otherwise, is in fact a function of its pluralism and its diversity. And so if we think that's true, don't we have an obligation to create an environment at Bentley University that prepares our students to succeed with confidence and capacity and perspective and context in that marketplace? And if the answer is yes, And the answer has been yes for us. Then we have an obligation to work toward that end. That is why 25% record numbers for Bentley of our students are first gen. That is why we have enrolled the most diverse student population in our history. Because we think it makes the institution better. We think it advantages all of us to have that kind of environment. And this is affirmed directly by the work of some of the leading corporate entities in this country and around the world. And I feel really good that we are a part of that. And look, we haven't gotten it right. We've got work to do in that sense, but we are committed to it, and we're investing in it, and we think it's some of the most important stuff that we're talking about.
So applause. Related to that, and you talked in the strategy about positioning and who Bentley wants to be and how Bentley wants to be seen. And part of that, you were on national news this week talking about our work with Gallup and the Force for Good report, which has some really incredible information in. There's postcards all over campus. So if you haven't gotten one, look for those postcards. You can get in there. And I found the data, and I look at a lot of data about college students. And this was I'm like, well, this explains a lot of what I'm seeing. And one of the pieces that, there's a ton in there, but I thought this was really fascinating that 71% of young Americans, 18 to 29, say they'd switch jobs at work at an organization to go to one that has a greater impact on the world. So 71% would say they'd switch from their job to go somewhere where the organization has a greater impact. That's our students. That's who's going to school now, who our young alumni are. What does that tell you about our nation's workforce? And how are we supporting our students at Bentley as they look for this kind of meaningful work?
So let me first say that we are an institution that recognizes and affirms and actually celebrates the vitality and dynamism of free market economics, and that we believe that the private sector is vital. And if that is to sustain, then job number one is to ensure the competitiveness of the firm, and that all enterprises that our students go and work for or that they create can pass the market test. And so our students are rigorously trained, which is why they're so successful. And so I want to start with that. But the data are also clear that today's students, Gen Z and millennial students, have passions and priorities that go beyond shareholder wealth creation. And so when we talk about doing well and doing good, this isn't hyperbole for us. My thing is, look, if you want to come here and figure out the next iteration of green technologies to prevent sort of pernicious degradation of rainforests around the world, this is your place. If you want to come here and start the next hedge fund, this is your place. But en route to starting that hedge fund, we expect you to go back and lift as you rise and invest resources and be a good citizen and that. And so our students give us no choice but to be responsible stewards of the environment, to think deeply and critically about issues of justice and fairness. And I would say that opportunity and fairness have been for hundreds of years at the cornerstone of this country's sort of national identity, at least on paper. And so if we had any doubt that this was important, the data that you're talking about erases it. And this is who we educate. This is what our students expect from us. And so we are delighted to offer opportunities in healthcare, in environmental stewardship and management, in the public policy arena, in the diversity and inclusivity arena, as well as accounting, finance, analytics, marketing, operations, et cetera. And in that sense, like our best days are ahead of us.
Ask you a lot of serious questions. Let's veer off a little bit. How's your racquetball game? I know you've been looking for students, and this is a chance to sort of,
I'm
you know.
so glad you asked that. So I'm you know, again, just blessed beyond belief. The privilege of being in this role is just awesome, and I love it. And you know, it's just my wife and I, my kids and grandkids are all, they're a long way away, and that's been, and so, you know, the job and my wife's well-being is important, community, faith, but I'm an exercise I'm a little obsessed with it, and that's okay. I'll live with that. And so they had a bunch of racquetball, or at least 3 racquetball courts here, but they were dormant. They were storage rooms. They needed, nobody used them, and so I asked politely, could I just get one? And so we have one on campus, and I go over there and just, you know, hit the ball. But I have found a Falcon member who I'm playing with. But if there are any students or faculty or staff here who have some game and you want to play, just let me know. If you don't have game, go practice, and then let me know, and we'll play, because I am competitive, and I've been doing it for a while, and it's great cardio, and I love it, and really grateful to your team, as well as our facilities folks, athletics reports to Andrew and athletics folks for doing it. So it's been awesome.
He did ask politely, but probably about 20 times. So it's like, after I was like, okay, he's serious about this one. So we got to figure this out, but it's been great. It's in the residence hall. So you get down there, you get to be in the residence hall.
Yeah.
You know, he did tell his cabinet, like, if you don't have game, don't, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I play tennis. Maybe I can try. I'm like, no, back to a little bit more serious. You know, I know we have some students in the room, and I'm a liberal arts grad. And what I love about Bentley, and I've been at a business university my career, and I really appreciate, and I've learned a lot about business, absorbing it here. But you often hear, and sometimes students are like, well, why do I have to take this course? Like, can I just get through this?
Yeah. You mean
the arts and sciences, you know, and they want to focus on those business disciplines. Talk a little bit about the value of just the individual courses, but then more broadly to this intersection of the arts and science and business at Bentley.
So I've been a business school dean and in business schools at Michigan and Arizona and other places. My last presidency was a liberal arts place, but here, and we're really good at business. But our students are as attractive as they are to our corporate partners and as successful as they are, in large part because of their ability to communicate effectively and extemporaneously, to think and reflect critically, to navigate ambiguity, to add value to diverse and cross-cultural teams, to parse and reflect on data in ways that are nurtured by the liberal arts. In other words, and this is also always an interesting thing to say at a business-oriented university, we are as good a business school as we are because of the arts and science. And so, you know, I've heard of our students sort of trying to get out of, I really have to take this history. Like, yes. Do I really have to take political science? Absolutely. Do I really have to take a philosophy? Well, yeah, you do. The reality is your students are, as I said, they're digital natives. They understand the tools of analysis. They know sort of, data collection protocols. We're not worried about our students' ability to access data. We want to make sure that they can analyze that data for the competitive advantage of their organization. And that takes discernment and discipline And that is what the liberal arts bring. Plus, they need to be able to talk and they need to be able to write. And no offense against our students, I love them, but you know, this little texting stuff you all got going on and how you communicate in writing, it's a thing. And so this is vital. Final thing I'll say on that, and this is really serious. I talk to a lot of business executives, a lot of them as a business school dean, and it's all the time. None of them have ever said to me, well, Brent, you know, we wish more of your students knew R, or we wish they were more fluent in Python, or we wish they were more adaptable using a pivot table in Excel. Like, who isn't among our, I'm not, but our students are. What they say is we need them to be more comfortable in communicating in environments like this. We need them to write more effectively. We need them to think and reflect more critically. That is what we hear. That is the competitive advantage of this institution, and our arts and science are a vital and essential component of that. And so, and this is more than you wanted on this, sorry. But so we reoriented our core curriculum to make it easier for our students to choose both a liberal arts and a business track. And we hope that they do. And so, okay, that's all I'll say about that.
Well, that was great because that was one of the questions from the audience was about the new curriculum.
Oh, yeah,
So
right.
you got to that. And if folks do have questions and you want to hold them up, someone will grab them from you and bring them down for us. But we're happy to take some of those questions. We've got alumni here. We celebrated earlier in the semester the 50th anniversary of football, and this is a big weekend. We have the 40th anniversary of volleyball and 50 years of soccer and lots of great things, and a lot of alumni are coming back. What's the role of alumni in the life of a campus, and what's the role that it should be, and what do you hope to see from Bentley alumni?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been wonderful to sort of celebrate the athletic prowess of so many of our students and members of our alumni community. One thing I want to remind each of our parents about is, look, we take athletics serious. We are a very competitive institution in Division II. Hockey is Division I, of course. But more critically, for me, this is like the 9th year in a row that across all Division II institutions in the country, Bentley had the highest graduation rates. And so, look, I've been at places where that is absolutely not the case, where athletics is really the proverbial large tail wagging the dog. And so I love that our student athletes are student athletes, and they still compete. The role of the alumni, it's hard to overstate how important they are. And listen, we must sustain and develop a capacity to engage them in ways that are meaningful and productive. Our students deserve it. One of the benefits of a place like this is, in fact, the networking in the alumni community is absolutely essential to that. And they are wonderful and engaged and committed citizens. And one of the things I want to say to our our students who are here, I mean, look, it sounds or may sound rhetorical, but it's a privilege to be at a place like Bentley. Doesn't mean you don't deserve it. You do deserve it, but it's a privilege. And with that privilege comes an obligation. And that obligation, at least in part, is to ensure the success of others behind you. And there are all kinds of ways that alumni do that. And I couldn't be more proud of them, and want to thank them. And we want more of it. And so we're looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
That's great. As you think about when you were sharing that you speak to a lot of business executives. What do you say about the Bentley student? What have you sort of gathered from your conversation? You spend a lot of time with students, you meet students, they seek you out. What are some of the things that come to mind when you're talking about the Bentley student?
There's a reason that they are among the most desirable students in the marketplace. And our obligation is to make sure that they can recognize that where there's sort of a chasm or opportunity, that we help fill it. So here's what I hear the most. that our students enter their first job as near immediate value creators. In other words, they have already, as a function of their experience here, which includes not only a rigorous and comprehensive educational experience, but includes the context by which they are able to apply the skills and navigate the space and add value and become solution seekers while they're here on campus. So that when they get to that job, I mean, they're highly prepared. And that was, I've never heard that before. And so what does that mean for us? So, okay, so what do we need to do to ensure that that remains the case? And equally critically, from our perspective, is all right, I want to make sure that Bentley students are also the most successful after the first 5 years, which is when they start really thinking about, next steps and promotions and managerial. And so we know we're really good at short term. What does it mean to ensure long-term value creation that goes beyond the sort of technical and analytical skill sets and use? And that's what's on our mind now.
Right. Tough questions coming in from the office, but and this is a question, it's a hard question, but I know one that you've faced, we all face it who work in higher education. Yeah. It's about affordability. Why is college so expensive? And this question is, what are we doing to make it more affordable?
Yeah. So this is for higher education, particularly places like us, a really a near existential issue. Look, there are lots of reasons higher education is broken, and there's lots of reasons why the price point divergence has exceeded sort of inflation of the last 25, 30 years, which we can get into, but and for us specifically, what it means is the most important thing that we can do is, one, to ensure that the ROI for Bentley University remains as high. So there was a study that came out a few months ago. Georgetown University, it wasn't our study, Georgetown Center for Law and Society, or Business and Society. Georgetown Center for Business and Society came out and ranked about 5,200 universities in the college universities in the country. They ranked 4,500 colleges and universities across the country by ROI. Which of these universities do students get the best return on their investment? And Bentley, 4,500 institutions, and Bentley came in at number 8. Now, we think we should have been number 1, but I want you to think about the neighborhood in which we play, right? It's a pretty serious neighborhood. Number 8 in the country in ROI. So first and foremost, Andrew, we have an obligation to ensure that that's sustained. Second, we have to reduce the cost of access. We started that with our first gen program. We started that with our Pell Grant recipients ratio went up. We think that's important. And when I talked about diversifying and growing our revenue stream, it is because the most important area of investment for us is in student scholarships. We know we're getting to the point where our price point divergence here is not going to be sustainable. And so this is something that, from the trustees to my leadership team to myself, are constantly working on. And it's a very serious issue for us, and something that we take really serious. And I appreciate that question.
As you talked about launching students into the business world, what are some of the economic, political, and cultural challenges that you think that students face and we face in launching them and moving them forward?
Yeah, the economic challenges are a little probably easier to discern. It's a competitive, disrupted marketplace. We are probably on the few months away from a major recession. The stock market's doing all kinds of crazy things. we're thinking about the whole remote versus, notion of labor and the allocation of labor and what that means, how we work together and all that. But our students can navigate that. What is a challenge, I think, is helping them navigate a political and cultural terrain that's just unique, ensuring that they can be true to their own set. So let me just say this. What we say to our students when we first meet them is, you are not going to be allowed to hide from ideas and points of view with which you are unfamiliar or even uncomfortable with. We will arm you with the data and insight to refute those ideas, but you can't hide from. And so we don't do cancel culture. We don't do, I'll stop there. We are an environment that affirms and recognizes the individuality of every member of this community, while recognizing that there is a strong core set of values and integrity that at their best, our students can navigate. So I want students who are, poor and Black and first gen to feel as welcomed and as comfortable as wealthy, conservative, white students. That is not an easy thing to talk about either. But we're talking about it because it's important. And it's part of what makes this place so unique and special. And we haven't gotten it right. Like, who has? But if we continue in this trajectory, our students will be able to navigate political, social, economic, and other sort of undulations in the market that they're going to face. And that's part of why I really love what we're doing here. And we're going to we're gonna keep it up.
Great. This question from the audience I know is near and dear to your heart. Entrepreneurship. How are we supporting it locally and globally? And what's your viewpoint on that? And I know this excites you.
Yeah, my viewpoint. I mean, so the 21st century marketplace is an innovation economy. And yet Bentley's history, amazing history, has been built on developing these value creators that go and work for some of the largest enterprises across a wide swath of terrain, anywhere. I mean, start with business and go anywhere. But many of our students come in and they self-identify as entrepreneurial. And so one of the questions that we're having now, and we're investing in time, effort, and resources, is what does an entrepreneurial ecosystem here look like? And, we've got a lot of great entrepreneurial places, Babson and others doing wonderful stuff. It's never really been our thing in that sense. And so we're not trying to look like them. But we have an obligation to ensure that our students are exposed to the dynamism and the creativity of an ecosystem that allows them to understand how to fulfill customer needs and take those skill sets into whatever corporate environment they want to. So again, that for us is interesting dialogue right now, but our students deserve it. They've made it clear they expect it and want it. And we're excited about what we're going to do. And so, again, if you want to be a tax partner for KPMG, like, there's no better place to go to. And if you want to go and create the next frame-breaking, innovative business, why can't we be equally competitive in that space in a way that makes sense for Bentley? So that's what we're looking at, and it's been fun.
Great. Final question. You've lived around the country, you've lived around the world, but this is your first stop in New England. And you surprised some of us last spring when you started rooting for the Celtics. So I want to know, as we start the season, are you rooting for the Celtics now?
I know, I got Joanne to I mean, like, I can't believe it, but I am. I mean, those guys are balling, and despite other issues going on with the team, how can you not root for them? But I stopped there. And so I'm still a Detroiter at heart, and so I will never be able to root for the Patriots or the Red Sox. But the Boston Celtics have won me over, and it's impressive.
So maybe in a few years, we'll talk about you being a Patriots.
Yeah,
Be like, wow, that was a surprise.
I
You
wouldn't
didn't
count on
expect."
that, but yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chrite. This was a great conversation. Really
You are
appreciate
awesome,
you.
Andrew, as always. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for being here. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Beautiful out
Yeah,
there.
it's beautiful outside. Thank you.